pour compter de ce jour 26
The government of Burkina Faso hereby informs the national and international community that it has decided to sever diplomatic relations with the French Republic effective today, June 26, 2026.
What happens when a country turns its back on the West? Not to stand alone, but to build an entirely new network of global allies. That's exactly what's unfolding in Burkina Faso, where one of Africa's most dramatic geopolitical transformation is quietly taking shape. In just a few years, the country has ended military cooperation with France, reduced its dependence on traditional Western partners, and began forging new relationships with countries across Russia, China, Turkey, Iran, North Korea, and beyond. This isn't just a change in foreign policy. It's part of a much larger shift that could reshape security, trade, diplomacy, and the balance of power across Africa. So why are so many non-Western countries aligning with Burkina Faso? What does each partner bring to the table? And will these new alliances permanently change the geopolitical landscape of the continent? In today's documentary, we will examine the countries now standing alongside Burkina Faso, the strategic interests driving these partnerships, and what this new chapter would mean for Africa and the world. To get how we got here, you have to understand why Burkina Faso and its neighbors felt they needed such a radical change. For years, the Sahel region has been ground zero for one of the world's fastest growing crises. The spread of violent extremism tied to groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS has torn entire nations apart, killing thousands and displacing millions. For nearly a decade, the main answer to this mess came from the West, specifically from France. The old colonial power back in 2013, French forces swooped into Mali to stop a jihadist takeover of the capital. That mission grew into Operation Barkhane, a massive counter-terrorism operation across 5 Sahelian countries. At its peak, thousands of French soldiers were on the ground, backed by European allies and US intelligence. On paper, it made sense, bringing elite military muscle to help local armies fight brutal enemy. And for a while, they were tactical wins, but the strategic picture was grim. Despite the huge foreign military presence, the violence didn't just continue, it spread like a virus. Jihadist groups adapted, they embedded themselves in rural communities, exploiting local anger, ethnic tension, and the fact that the government was nowhere to be found. They bled out from northern Mali into central Mali, and then right across the borders into Burkina Faso and Niger. Soon, the very presence of French troops became the problem. For more and more people in the Sahel, Operation Barkhane started to look less like a partnership and more like an occupation. Protests became a regular sight. This anti-French anger was fueled by simply powerful questions. If thousands of high-tech French soldiers can't stop the violence, what are they really doing here? This tapped into a deep well historical resentment, creating a potential political cocktail of nationalism and anti-imperialism. The whole military-first approach was failing to fix the root cause: poverty, climate change, and terrible governance. Western partners often tied aid to conditions like democracy and human rights, a model that the region's new military leaders saw as an attack to their sovereignty. The G5 Sahel Joint Forces, a homegrown African initiative, was supposed to be the answer, but it was starved for cash. They depended on EU and French funding, making it a symbol of a security strategy that just wasn't delivering. By the early 2000s, things were at a breaking point. National armies were taking devastating losses, civilians were massacred, huge chunks of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger were basically no-go zones. The Western strategy had failed, and in the army barracks, a generation of young frustrated officers was watching and deciding the whole system had to burn. The breaking point wasn't one moment, but a cascade of military takeovers. Mali in 2020 and 2021, Burkina Faso in January 2022 and again that September, and Niger in July 2023. Suddenly, a solid belt of military-run states stretched across the Sahel, and they all had the same justification. The old civilian government and their Western friends had failed to keep them safe. In Burkina Faso, the face of this change was Captain Ibrahim Traore. At 34, he seized power in the country's second coup in 8 months, projecting an image of revolutionary fire and unapologetic nationalism. He spoke a language people understood, a language of sovereignty. For Traore, sovereignty wasn't just a word. It meant taking back control of the nation's security, its resources, and its destiny, free from foreign meddling, and the biggest symbol of that meddling was France. The new junta moved fast. They demanded France renegotiate the defense deals that let its troops operate there. When Paris resisted, Ouagadougou just ripped up the agreement and gave the French 1 month to get out. By early 2023, the last French soldiers were gone. The French ambassador was expelled. French news outlets like RFE and France 24 were banned, accused of being propaganda tools. These weren't just diplomatic squabbles. They were symbolic acts designed to signal a clean, irreversible break. The message was crystal clear. The old relationship is dead. Burkina Faso is looking for new partners, and this time it will be on its own terms. The pivot created a vacuum, but it also created an opportunity to build in something new. Before looking for powerful friends overseas, Burkina Faso first turned to its neighbors, the ones going through the exact same chaotic transformation. The most important new alliance for Burkina Faso isn't with some distant superpower, but with Mali and Niger. Brought together by a coup, frustrations with old order, and getting kicked out of regional clubs, these three juntas were in the same boat, ostracized by many African peers and sanctioned by the economic community of West African states. They didn't buckle, they banded together. In September 2023, they created the Alliance of Sahel States, or AES. Initially a mutual defense pact, the AES was a direct response to ECOWAS threatening to send in troops to restore the president in Niger. The Charter's key clause is its most powerful. An attack on one is an attack on all. It was a Sahelian version of NATO's Article 5, a clear warning to the outside world. But the AES quickly became more than a military pact. The leaders announced ambitious plans to reform a confederation aiming for a full political and economic union to make their break with the old guard complete. All three announced their withdrawal from ECOWAS in January 2024, a move they considered effective as of January 2025. Though the process remains politically complex and disputed, the centerpiece of the AES is a planned joint military force. Reports suggested an intended size of around 5,000 troops designed to operate across the three countries' borders. In the fight against jihadists, unlike the foreign-funded G5, the goal is for the AES force to be funded by the member states themselves, a critical part of their sovereignty's first doctrine. They are holding regular meetings to operationalize the alliance, trying to create a force that they hope can succeed where previous efforts failed. The AES is more than a security deal, it is an ideological project. It is a Pan-African version of African solutions to African problems, built on a model of security and stability over Western-style democracy. For Burkina Faso, the AES is the new home. It provides security, strategic depth, and unified platform to face the world. With this regional alliance in place, Burkina Faso went looking for major external partners to fill the void left by the West. It found one in Russia. Russia has quickly become the most important foreign military and political ally for the entire AES bloc. The relationship didn't just pop up overnight. It was built on the groundwork laid by the Wagner Group, which had already set up shop in Mali. As Burkina Faso's junta scrambled to re-equip its army for a war of total territorial reconquest, Moscow was a ready and willing supplier. Unlike Western partners, Russia offers military support without the lecture of human rights or democracy, a huge selling point for a junta that has suspended political parties. The cooperation is brutally pragmatic. Russia provides what the government needs most: weapons, training, and military advisors. Russian personnel are now operating under the African Corps banner, have deployed to Burkina Faso. They are reportedly training local soldiers and providing security for the leadership. A key part of keeping the regime in power, this partnership is deeply strategic. High-level ministerial meetings between Russia and the AES countries are becoming a regular fixture, reinforcing their deepening military cooperation. The symbolism is powerful. Captain Traore appearing with Vladimir Putin at Russia-Africa Summit sends an unmistakable message about where Ouagadougou's loyalties now lie. For Russia, it is a huge win. It gets strategic foothold in a vital region, expands its influence, gains potential access to resources, and shows it can challenge Western dominance. In an even more ambitious sign of cooperation, reports indicate the two countries have held talks about potential space and satellite collaboration, which could provide Burkina Faso with crucial intelligence. For Burkina Faso leaders, Russia is the perfect security backer. It's a veto-wielding member of the UN Security Council that can provide diplomatic cover. It doesn't care about the junta's domestic politics, and it provides the tools of war. This has made Russia the indispensable great power patron in Burkina Faso's new world. While Russia handles the hard security, another global giant is playing a different but equally vital role: China. If Russia is the military pillar of Burkina Faso's new alignment, China is fast becoming its economic one. The two countries re-established diplomatic ties in 2018, but the relationship has since hit a light speed since the coup. In 2024, they elevated their ties to a strategic partnership that's not diplomatic fluff. It signals deep collaboration in trade, infrastructure, and even defense. The economic shift is dramatic. Bilateral trade has seen explosive growth, making China's Burkina Faso a top source of import. To boost this, Beijing has granted zero tariff treatment for most Burkina-based exports, opening up its massive market. This all aligns with China's long-standing policy of non-interference. For the junta, it is a perfect fit. Beijing builds roads and power plants without asking about political reforms. Chinese state-owned companies are now all over Burkina Faso's development. They are backing major solar power plants, water supply projects, and even the country's digital infrastructure. Just recently, China renewed its commitment to the healthcare sector with the donation of medical equipment. Crucially, China is becoming a key defense supplier. Reports suggest the state-owned defense giant Norinco is supplying the Burkinabe army with a range of military hardware, giving the junta another option beyond Russia. While Russia may provide the advisors, China provides the heavy equipment. This gives Burkina Faso a development path. completely delinked from its old Western partners. For China, it is a classic belt and road play: secure resources, open new markets, and build influence. By acting as a partner for development with no political baggage, China has made itself essential to Burkina Faso's future. Beyond the big players, Burkina Faso is also building alliances with influential middle powers, especially Turkey and Iran. This partnership adds new layers to its non-Western stance, providing specific skills and reinforcing its ideological break. Turkey has become a go-to partner for many African nations, and Burkina Faso is no exception. The relationship is less about ideology and more about getting things done. Ankara is reportedly a key supplier of military tech, particularly its famous Bayraktar TB2 drones. These drones are game changers, offering a cheap but deadly solution for hitting mobile insurgent groups in the vast Sahel, a massive boost for Burkina Faso's army. The alignment with Iran, however, is much more political, as two nations that feel targeted by the West. They share a common language of resistance. This has led to a series of concrete agreements. One of the most significant is a Memorandum of Understanding to cooperate on building an oil refinery in Burkina Faso. This will be a strategic game changer. The country produces no crude oil and imports all its fuel, so a local refinery could offer real energy security. The two have also signed an MOUs on peaceful nuclear activities, and while both stress it's for civilian purposes, a nuclear deal with Iran, shortly after discussing similar tech with Russia, sends a powerful geopolitical message. The outreach is incredibly broad, with Burkina Faso even engaging with diverse networks of non-Western actors and initiative groups to expand its international ties with partnerships. These partnerships show the sophistication of Burkina Faso's new foreign policies. It's about building a diverse portfolio of alliances to maximize its independence. So what does all of this add up to? This isn't just a random collection of deals, it's a deliberate construction of a new geopolitical bloc, one that's fiercely nationalistic, run by soldiers, and explicitly anti-Western. For the Sahel, the leaders of the AES are making a huge bet. They are betting their new model, regional military solidarity plus non-Western patrons, can deliver the one thing that people want the most: security. But the big unanswered question is, will it work? So far, the results are green. Globally, what's happening in Burkina Faso is a perfect snapshot of a new multipolar world. It shows that similar nations now have a much wider menu of partners to choose from. They can mix and match, playing different powers of each other to serve their own interests. The era when Western powers could easily dictate terms is fading fast. Burkina Faso and its neighbors are on the bleeding edge of the new reality, a real-world laboratory for a multi-aligned foreign policy. In just a few short years, Burkina Faso has completely redrawn its map of the world, fed up with the decade of Western strategies that failed to stop the violence. The country's military leaders have engineered stunning pivot. They've abandoned France and its allies and built a new ecosystem of support. At its heart is the alliance of the Sahel states, a tight confederation with Mali and Niger. This bloc is backed by a formidable list of non-Western powers. Russia provides the military muscles and diplomatic cover. China brings economic power, funding, infrastructure, and selling arms. And a cast of other nations like Turkey and Iran add strategic depth. This is the new face of the Sahel, a bold, risky, and revolutionary experiment. As the violence continues to spiral, despite these new partnerships, the most important question remains unanswered. Will this new path lead to the stability and sovereignty its leaders promised, or it just swapped one set of problems to another? What do you think of this new wave of alliances? Is this a genuine path to sovereignty for Burkina Faso, or a dangerous gamble? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you value this kind of in-depth analysis, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Hitting the notification bell is the best way to support the channel. Thank you for watching.